Like, I mean, I just had
No, but it's like, it's just weird, right?
yeah.
For all the guys who are working 5 days. Or like, as you said, 7 days actually.
7 days. Like nobody works 5 days. Man.
But it feels bad, like a lot of my friends are saying unko diya hai 4 days a week till June, and then I'm like on Friday
Oh
feeling.
yeah. Okay, so you're one. So you can talk
Yeah,
about
I'm
that.
one of them. I'm feeling really like left out, and
Okay. We are properly live right now, and I think there are only 2 people watching that includes me, which is kind of silly. But like say, if there are more people watching, and if I'm not getting numbers right over here, then please first hit the like on the fucking video because nobody else notices otherwise. Like there's this stupid fucking algorithm that I have to deal with every fucking time. Okay, so hit the like on this video so that people notice कि like say हाँ Tadpatri Talkies का page कुछ तो कर रहा है, right? So yeah, man, it's unfortunate. It is like that. Like say the last hip hop podcast we did. It's only after we were pushing people to hit the like button, right? Like say then like say more people started noticing it. Anyway,
लोगों को लगता है ब्रेनस्टॉर्म होने वाला है.
brainstorm होने वाला है. Okay, anyway, this is kind of like part 2 is kind of like agency attrition rate कैसा रहता है वैसा वैसे we'll try to maintain a few people from part 1. So you see Gaurav, you see Natasha, you see Peter. But you also have Tathagat, like say he's a CD in an agency. We have worked together in the past, and of course we have AgencyGandu over here. Like say, everyone knows him, like say, as the brilliant satirist that he is. But I'm gonna just for the sake of like not being heard saying called Gandu too many times at home. I'm gonna refer to him as AG. So yeah, like finally you have a face to put the name to. Anyway, welcome guys. Like, and thanks for joining us. Like, this was because last time like it felt like the chat was like incomplete simply because like say it was because it was a freewheeling chat, like say we just went on and on and on, and I think we had a lot to rant about, and I'm sure there is some more pending things, especially with Tathagat coming in, with AG coming in, right? But
Not ranting.
not ranting. Oh shit! Where's your passion,
Challenge.
dude?
I've been to stage on rants, dude. Like, हाँ बहुत rant है यार ये तो.
हाँ, I know. I'm sure you guys have your outlets. Otherwise, also like see इधर आके like say just to be full blast on ranting, it doesn't make sense. But having said that, like we have seen not definitely not as a consequence, but like say of okay, as a consequence perhaps of the hashtag that like in the last week a lot of companies like say have started, maybe some of the agencies that you guys are a part of or whatever, they have all started changing certain workplace protocols or workplace
Policies and all that, yeah.
yeah. So as to make क्या कहते हैं, working a little more tolerable, I suppose.
Humane?
No, humane is like say what they're trying to push, but I'm not going to go there yet. I have a lot to pick on that. But like say having said that, in general, Peter, like say I want to come to you first of all, like say because we have discussed like say a lot of these like in chat in private, we've discussed like say how a lot of these people have been trying to make these events right now, so to speak. Is that A, something that particularly stood out to you, and B, like say, do you think like say is it help if it is helping in the grand scheme of things?
So I'll use all these cliched books that everyone's been reading and posting about, right? Whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, and all. It's great if you're implementing the 4-day work week, but what if 4-day work week starts with the 5 a.m. club, right? then it's kind of like redundant. But having said that, man, it's crazy. Like I have a lot of like agency people and all on my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah,
and let's just say that people are finally realizing that their best PR is their employees. So I'm like suddenly seeing like all these employees putting up, I know Natasha is smiling, but people putting up like testimony like, oh my God, yeah. I can so imagine like a, HR or a CEO saying, please, sab log, LinkedIn पे जाके हमारी company का थोड़ा praise करो or something. I don't know what is it, but it's like, you know, after a while when you see so many people doing it, it makes sense
Yeah.
that it's a strategic move. But you know, if I feel, is it too late, right? And this is like
Yes,
while I was
it feels like that right now. Honestly, and I mean, this is not just me trying to be a reactionary about this, but it's because like everything. Ever since, like, say, well, Peter, I'm sure, like, say, you have had your problems, your fair share of problems, like, say, when you were in the industry. Same goes with all of you guys. And all of us, like, say, have, like, were there for a good deal of time or are still there. Um, After, like, say, having spent enough time and, like, say, and I'm sure all of us must have been vocal with our issues, like, say, with how things work with our seniors or with whoever. And just it just feels like it just went unheard at that time. It just right now had to take a PR problem for of an agency. Like, for it to blow up so much कि like say हाँ Zomato says कि like say हाँ भाई मैं 4 दिन का छुट्टी Swiggy not Zomato
yeah.
4 दिन का छुट्टी देगा sorry 4 दिन का working days देगा someone else says something else like say किसी के और of course they're appointing like say क्या therapists and
Yeah.
So wait, I'm sorry I'm cutting you short, but like the most relevant question here would be that, like, since everyone worked in an ad agency, how many times did you actually bring up a problem to your boss and he just looked at you like, okay, what's the big deal about it? And
Welcome to
didn't do-
advertising.
Yeah, and then
Welcome to advertising. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
response you
then
get.
there was, if you like, it was kind of detrimental to your career because then somebody else was willing to do it, right?
Exactly.
There's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
many
yeah.
times.
And we look at that from the agency point of view, right? Like the same thing. Like if my agency is working for 4 days a week, there is a certain amount of like leeway that the client or the brands have to also give me. कि भाई तू 4 दिन का काम कर रहा है, but we won't run off to someone who's working 6 days a week because again that it's a capitalistic industry. So it's very difficult to maintain it because 3 लोगों में से अगर एक बंदा भी करेगा ना ज़्यादा, everything will go to that person because obviously you have to take care of your own interest in mind. So it's very difficult. It's not a China sort of governing policy कि सबको अभी करना ही होगा 4 दिन का week. So unless that's done, nothing's going to work. It's all like a temporary thing. But right now, maybe it's manageable because we are all working from home. Shayad businesses are a little low in terms of pace because of the pandemic, all of that. So it's probably manageable. And it's a good PR move again, right? So it's doable. But again, if it's just there for a few months, then it's shallow. And it's like those 30 minutes nahi to free Domino's ka offer chala jayega kuch salon.
Wait, like say what I do want to figure is like the longevity of like say a lot of these measures that like companies are taking right now to aid let's say their employees whatever. But in general, like say I'm not too hopeful. I don't want to say I'm cynical per se. I do want like say things to work out. I want more people to join the industry just because it's a place where a place that generates employment and but having said that I want to tell people also like say comfortably that please join an ad agency. So I mean, Tata, like say maybe you would want to like say chime in on that. Like say,
I was just about to jump in. Like I am like my dad was in advertising, and that's probably the reason why I got into advertising. My brother got into advertising. The only piece of advice that he gave was that I have been an art director, so don't be an art director. Be anything. तू sourcing बन जा, brand set चला जा, copywriter बन जा, CEO बन जा. All that ज्ञान he gave, and so he worked his ass off in the 80s and 90s, and he was with McCann's and Ogilvy's, that time O&M.
Okay.
So what he said was like, get ready, gear up to like spend nights and days and weeks on a sofa and just get your good work out. And if that's the notion that is coming from somebody 30 years back, I don't know how someone is going to change that.
Yeah.
So that has been the story of advertising, and somehow Indian advertising loves the fact that we burn ourselves out and we kind of are as if like we're deployed at some war field or somewhere where we can't come back to home.
Yeah.
Even if we come back to home, our mind is there. I can't focus on my wife or my pets. That is how it is, and people have kind of accepted it, and that is the way it is. मतलब रात को भी सोने से पहले बीवी से तुम डेटा के बारे में बात करो, तुम अपने एंगेजमेंट की बात करो, अबे क्या चल रहा है, कभी तो स्विच ऑफ करो.
Imagine if you're married
I've
to
never dated
somebody else from
anybody in
advertising.
My
Sorry,
wife gave
Natasha?
up. She was in advertising. She gave up. She's like, I can't deal with this shit. So I mean, props to her, props to you who kind of gotten out of it. But we are still there. We're trying.
Natasha was saying something.
I said that's why you can never date anybody from advertising, because you're always
Yes.
vague and talking about this.
Or you have to get out of advertising to date anyone, man. Honestly. But yeah, it's difficult, man. Like, because I suppose, like, you know, I gave up on my social life too early. Like, say, once I got into this. I remember, like, say, Gaurav, like, say, because we worked together, Gaurav was, like, say, still very, very particular, and, like, say, I've seen how doggedly he used to work, just so that, like, say, he could go and spend time with his family. And I mean, props to him for that. Yeah, like, but having said that, like, say, do you think it was easier, like, in the early days, or did it get easier later? Like, say, as years got added to your experience. Gaurav?
I would say it does get a little easier when as you add more experience to your arsenal. But when it comes to as you go on adding experience, you're also sort of adding your head onto the chopping block. So in terms of in terms of how do I put it? In terms of if you try and balance it out, I still think that it somewhere lies in the same plus or minus 10-20% zone. So that would be my take. And at the end of the day, I mean, do we really have like the only thing that you gain with experience is how fast you can churn out work, if you know what I'm saying. Rather than spending X amount of time and being able to do Y amount of work, you're spending X minus whatever amount of time and doing Y amount of work. So I think that's the only thing that experience builds in. But with experience comes more briefs and more of all of that. So I think that gets sort of balanced.
But having said that, there is one particular thing that I want to bring it up, and this is open to anyone who wants to comment. A lot of, like, say, the heavy lifting, so to speak, like that comes with our work, starts from, like, say, getting the right idea, and, like, say, getting to that place, like, you know, is the thing that takes the most time. So, like, say, if you have to get all your bases covered, like, say, oh shit, like, you know, but client ka brief mein bola ye word nahi use karne ka kidhar, or this should not be touched, or some shit like that, you know, like, say, you have to put, like, say, all the parameters in place first, and then think about also an angle of, to put it lightly, force fitting something into, let's say, a client's campaign, right? So, and that is a real mental workout, right? So, which is why I feel like, say, there is no cap on, like, say, when you can leave the office, because they know, like, say, because, like, that shit takes time, and, like, you know, creatives ka aise hi nikal, like, but see, that's one of the things that I want to come to much later. But right now, I just want to understand, like, say, is there a way to streamline creativity in a where you can, like, say, you know, say, like, okay, मैं 8 बजे के बाद I'm going to stop being creative, right? And I mean, that sounds stupid. I know, right? Because, like, say, if people can be very particular about, like, you know, not giving you your money, or like, say, if you're walking in 15 minutes late into office, right? Then, like, say, you should be allowed that much leeway. Like, you know, I was thinking about the idea that could possibly win you an award, like, you know, for, like, say, 3 hours extra in office with my team. So, you know, they, you know, cut me some slack there, or, like, say, maybe give me those 3 hours back in some form again. Like, say, no, maybe give me a half day, whatever. I don't know. But, like,
so this will give you. I think I'll tell you an analogy or story from my agency days, like early agency days, and it should kind of answer how things have changed. So there used to be a creative guy, very brilliant guy, and he lived near the agency, but his thing was he liked, when the agency, everyone was gone, post 6 and all, sit, work on his presentations. All. He was that kind of guy. Everyone has one colleague like that. So his thing was, I'll sit, finish the presentation and all, and when it's done, then I'll get up. So time usko farak nahi padta tha. But his thing was, don't put that 10:30 subah aane ka. If I've sat till 2 in the morning, don't tell me at 10:30 you have to come and 5 minutes later. Nahi chalega, because that doesn't work. And I still remember, like, I was shocked that there was a discussion where actually everyone was kind of breaking down, ki, why do you sit so late? What happens? And I was like, why can't you get it? Like, unless you've been in those shoes, right? And I think that's the thing, unless you've done it. In today's day and age, like 10 years later, you've got upstarts, and I'm sorry I'm using that word, but you've got these guys who've just kind of, accelerated. Matlab CD 4 saal mein ho gaya hai. 4 साल में क्या मतलब कितने पापड़ बेले कितने like brainstorm किए all that, right? So how, and then those guys are now you're reporting or questioning you, they're obviously not going to get that process. So things have changed. I mean, like, there is of course one side where, okay, yes, there is, but if you're going to you expect great ideas and you expect it, between 9 and 6 only, I don't know, man, what kind of agency or what kind of thing you're running.
Natasha, you want to comment on this?
I have like a dual take on this. Like, one, I feel, I have worked with people who function really well at night. So I feel in that case, our whatever HR system or something has to be flexible enough where we have shifts. And I think in one of my previous agencies, there was a conversation also where they had like a 9 o'clock check-in, 10 o'clock check-in, 11 o'clock check-in and all that. That never materialized, but there was. I feel it will be hard to have a decorum until we have a system in place which enables you to, do the second shift, like how you have in call centers and all. If there are writers who write great scripts at 2 in the night, there are people like that as well. But so like that, I'm very conflicted between, but then if I want to brainstorm with my team member and one of whom does the night shift, how do I do that?
Right.
So that has to be figured out. I mean, I get that, we all have our creative juices flowing at some time in the day, but then we have to come to that mid time so that we all are present.
Yeah.
It cannot be like one person is like an early morning writer who wakes up at 5:30 and writes scripts, and the other one is like a 2:30 in the night.
Yeah.
Where do we meet then?
So I mean, my experience is like, ever since I've become like, like the final creative person, it has become even more difficult for me because as a CD or an ACD, we have our shifts. Like, in the morning, we are trying to figure out which team member has fallen sick, who's doing what is going on, and we try to fill in all those holes. Second half, maybe we take our own briefs, wherein there is a script that needs to be done, or there's a deck that needs to be made. So I wanted to become nocturnal. I didn't want to give up on my night, like my sleep cycle. But situation has to get wherein to be that final, like sort of like that stopcock, you will need to kind of figure out your team's shit in the first half, and then by second half you have an individual battles to kind of like fight. That is where I think it kind of goes wrong. Like personally, if I have to judge it from that individual level, I think that is where most of the CDs, most of the ACDs, they kind of just go in that direction, saying like, "Raat ko kaam karna hai." Because that's obvious. Because मैं अपने लिए कब time दूंगा? इतना कुछ मैं 2 मिनट फोन रखता हूँ, कोई फोन कर देता है, वहां से उठा रहे हैं, यहाँ पे आग लगी है, यहाँ पे आ जा. You can't write a script. You can't write a script in that. You can't focus on yourself. You can't focus on a deck.
I remember, I won't take names. I won't take names of agencies or people. But like, agency that I worked with in the past, like my CD, they used to wait for their bosses to leave, and like say then they would catch up, like should take our team or like say out for drinks, like say in a nearby bar. And only when they would be hammered enough, they would come back and start working on the question. Okay, and like this was pretty much like an everyday situation, and I could not gel with that idea at all. Like, I mean, not like not that I don't like a glass of whatever, like say after work, but that's after work. Like, and that's kind of a weird discipline that I've put into myself. Like say, okay, I will touch it, but like say once I am like मैंने laptop बंद कर दिया, उसके बाद मैं हाथ लगाऊंगा. But like say, I mean, but I don't want to get necessarily into like say topics of like say bad workplace behavior, like say like say which you already touched upon in the last one. But that's what like say excuses like okay I say the word excuses very loosely, that I only function late in the night, or I function with like say some supplements in me or whatever. Like that like say that seems extremely counterintuitive, or like say or in a way it also feels like you have accepted the fact that like the industry is like this, so might as well like cave into it and like say and like make it like say some sort of a convenient playground within that sphere. AG, you want to come in on that?
I mean, see, like in my previous agency, they had tried this whole model of, we were all complaining basically, ki din mein we don't get time after work. So they were like, okay, what if we give you the first half of the day to yourself, do your personal shit. Second half ka din is for officers. That we tried that out for 2 days. One of our colleagues was married. He had a problem because raat ko bhi ghar jana hota hai. We can't be in office like some fucking owl. So ho jata hai. So it never works out, right? So I think the best middle ground probably is that आप office का timing को जो define कर रहे हो ना, let it be for execution of the work. Because when you're thinking of ideas, when you're thinking internally, वो तो टट्टी में बैठ के आ जाएगा, नहाते नहाते आ जाएगा. You can't have someone in office for that. When you're in office, you're working on that deck. You're working on creating that presentation. You're putting together tangible ideas, right? But वो idea जो strike करता है, वो तो individually कर जाएगा anytime. So I think that pressure on be in office by 10 or by 9 makes no sense unless something has to be executed at that point of time. Like there's a meeting, very brainstorming karna hai, like whatever. So if there's something that you can do alone, like writing a script, for example, write it whenever you want to write. Bas bhej do, 2 days in advance probably, ki script end of day tak bhejna hai. So you bhej do. But yeah, just that calculation of आज कितना घंटा किया on that, that's pointless. Like, there's no way to gauge that then.
I think we should unanimously agree that the solution for all of this is man, shut up, Anmol is just being stupid in the comments. Anyway, make ganja legal again.
Wait, I think Gaurang, I think you should check out one of the latest comments that's come. That's interesting.
Well before कौन सा Nigel का? Well before COVID, we had suggested getting a therapist on board, and the management legit told us, "तुम लोग awards जीतो सब ठीक हो जाएगा."
I'm so sorry, Nigel, I'm laughing, but oh my god.
Oh man, that's so fucking dumb. Shit, I had an interesting question to ask. I completely forgot. Okay, but having said that, like, in terms of like say being under the pump all the time, and like say and still maintaining like say maintaining a creative edge, so to speak. And right now, like say this whole paradigm of like working like late in the night and all of that, like say has been completely flipped on top of its head because of work from home, right? So like तुम लोग कभी भी जा सकते हो, like अपने बेड में बैठ के तुम लोग काम कर सकते हो, like कैसे भी जो भी. So is this like say is this also another learning that like especially right now when in this week when like say a lot of brands and agencies have announced like repair measures, so to speak, for improving employee lifestyle and all of that. You think like say work from home should have been given a more serious thought, like especially like the kind of comfort that comes with it?
Sorry, I want to add one more layer to this question. Imagine they announced 4-day work week and then Friday को कोई client को याद आया, अरे Sunday को Mother's Day है.
Oh yeah, dude.
वो तो आएगा ही.
I'm sure there are some agencies who have like got their idea approved on like Friday afternoon और फिर बैठ के रात तक execute करे because Saturday काम नहीं करना.
The 4-day thing is. Sorry, Tathapul.
The flip side is like, you have planned your Mother's Day, your creative got approved and all that. And then you realize that on that same day, there is another day which is coming up. So that's when that's the actual thriller. वो जब आता है तब लगता है, oh shit, इसका तो कोई सोचा ही नहीं था, बड़ा वाला सोच रहे थे हम. That small probe ना is the bigger one.
like say they might like they might try to question like say, oh by the way ये IPL का कुछ तो करवा दो इसके बीच में.
Oh God, IPL dude.
जडेजा ने मैच जिता दिया, करो कुछ.
Can you imagine like collectively the sigh when IPL was postponed? Like, hi.
Listen, can we just give a huge shout out to Yashraj Mukhade for not posting anything for the last 1 or 2 months?
Fuck,
Like,
dude,
just,
yeah.
like, just, like the Soja, please just.
Dude. Like I think I'm just glad like say he's been quiet for a while.
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, okay. Like coming back, like is there like is work from home something that has been overlooked as an opportunity for like, because I think creators work better in like say in their own spaces. I know some people are like say not particularly fans of like being isolated and working. But having said that, like say Zoom conversations so hote rehte hain. I mean, I can speak for myself. Like say with Tadpatri Talkies also, like say I have daily conversations within my team. Like say we get on a Google Meet or whatever, and like say we discuss like, okay, ये idea मेरे को आया था, can we make this into a sketch or like say maybe a podcast or whatever. And likewise, like say everyone, like say just we are sharing Google Meet links pretty much every day with each other. So I don't think that has ebbed our creativity in any way. So you think like say work from home has been kind of like say kind of looked up like has not been considered as much, given like say how much work people are getting done sitting at home. Whoever wants to take this up, please.
So at least I'll talk about my experience, and this is
Go
a
for
while
it.
back. Work from home used to be like, this gift that agencies gave you, like, hum tumko work from home de rahe. But you have to send us reports and screenshots of what you're doing. And like, can you imagine, like, if you're a creative person and say once a week you're doing this and you're more productive than, at home, at office, then what do you do, right? You can't send like, okay, मैंने 5 ideas आए, ये the deck बनाए, ये किया, तो तुम office में क्या कर रहे हो, right? It becomes that kind of situation.
On that note, I want to add, like say we had Satyajit the last time. I know he is a website developer, not necessarily a quote unquote creative job, like from where we see it. So we used to bunk together, like say, like last year we used to bunk together, and they had like say very specific timelines about like you need to start your day at 9 whatever. So he would set an alarm for himself like to wake up at 9 so that on the Slack account or wherever he is logged in, वे सो जाता था वो log in because तभी उसको कोई काम assign किया नहीं था, and like say जो काम आता था वो used to come in the second half of the day. Then he would start panicking and running around. But like say तभी तो कुछ काम आता नहीं था, like, and he like I'm just going to stare at my computer screen till like say whatever 12 o'clock. Might as well like get some extra hours of sleep till then.
These are also online schools of today. Exactly what you said.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's a different topic. Like, I want to bring up a friend of mine for that shit also.
But I'm just thinking, like, can you imagine last year in like March or Feb? Like, so at least one good thing, at least the agency I worked at had one day where basically it was considered that, you had bank work or whatever. So you could like take a half day and you would get paid for it and stuff. So that was cool.
Yeah.
But like the whole fact of like, there was that whole thing you had to go and ask your boss, like, can I take a work from home? And you had to like justify it.
Yeah.
I want to know like what happened last year in like Feb, all the people who asked for work from home, like were they like made fun of, questioned? And now suddenly in March, sab log work from home kar rahe
hain. AG, you want to take that, or Natasha? Either of you?
I mean, I run my own studio, so I haven't asked anyone to work from home. I've been working from home since 2017. So,
okay, perfect.
So, but the first time I asked my employer in the agency in Delhi, so I had to justify. So I was a writer, so I had to justify why I could sort of be equally efficient if I work from home. So they had to be like, okay, we'll allow you take the Thursdays and Fridays off, matlab, ghar se kaam karo, but it's only for you. Don't tell the others in the team. I was like, what? हम लोग साथ में दारू पीते हैं, बताएंगे कैसे? Like,
like proper divide and
like,
rule.
Some, हाँ, मतलब cabin के अंदर अलग से, and then you have to see who. So basically, you can't tell others because they'll also ask for it. I'm like, they are all adults. If they want it, they'll ask for it. तो मतलब मेरे बोलने से नहीं बोलने से नहीं होगा. So that happened back then. But then वही था. So you had to sort of convince and tell them, because again, it's easier for a writer, because again, I have my MacBook, कहीं पे जाके बैठ जाओ. For a designer who's sort of working on that iMac, वो office का system पे काम कर रहा है, वो थोड़ा और complex process है. If your all your data is in that office का system, you know, so वो अलग से challenge तो है ही, but which is now I guess solved after last year. हल्का सा, everyone's working from home now.
Yeah. In other cases, like I feel even like my ex group head Art, for him, like he had requested a laptop instead of the big Macs, and he had a hard drive, and he went to his native place during lockdown, worked out of there. So I think the work from home works really well for me, and I can say for him as well, and a lot of other people who I've spoken to, because you know, during these 9 hours that we're supposed to give to office, we can take at least like a half an hour or a 15-minute out for ourselves. Maybe just, you know, do the call, the Teams call from the balcony or the garden area or something. At least we're moving our bodies, because we lead such a sedentary lifestyle. And I don't know how many of us agency people have back issues. I know at least like 5 people in my circle who do. So we need to keep moving, and I don't know, for some reason, I just thought this work from home was really a blessing. I could sleep till 9:45 and I had a 10 a.m. meeting. So I love it.
Yeah. That's not cool at all. But I want to come to Tatha on this particularly, because he had mentioned this like to me, like say privately before we even scheduled this chat. About like maintaining, like I know I feel like, you know, I'm harping on the same issue, but I'm sure Tata has more to add on this thing about how like say in such environments also, like say forget work from home and all that, in general अभी जैसा situation है, or like however it has been in the agency space for a while, like say people like say I would okay, for lack of better words, exploitative donations. Maybe like say, how can you stay creative, and B, like compartmentalize it enough to, like, you know, get it done on time, or like say just get it out on time. And Gaurav, maybe you can chime in after that.
So I think to sort of like, you know, like to channelize somebody's creativity, first thing that needs to be done is kind of buy time. Because creativity is something that you can't cap on somebody, saying that मेरे को 3 दिन में देना है या फिर मेरे को 2 रात में घुमाना है. Currently, the situation that has happened is that before the whole lot went down, which is like last month को जो पूरा advertising का पूरा like, you know, that whole exposure happened. Before that, it was all okay. I mean, everywhere. It's not just at one place, but I've seen people, I've heard from people, I've heard from friends that it's kind of like, you know, like it's like there is a ticking time bomb and people are working around that time. मेरे को 2 दिन में चाहिए, मेरे को 3 दिन में चाहिए. Sometimes the demand is so high that मेरे को रात भर घुमा के मेरे को script दे दे. It's a script. You need to kind of like before you start following it, you need to chew it. तुम अगर उसको देखोगे नहीं, तुम मान लो references नहीं वो करोगे, तुम अगर थोड़ा सा अपने brains को open नहीं करोगे, एक शो नहीं देखोगे, एक किताब नहीं पढ़ोगे, एक गाना नहीं सुनोगे, तो कैसे होगा?
Exactly.
Because one thing which is, I mean, while you guys have spoken about the benefits of work from home, one thing that I kind of feel is that, you know, like, I mean, I'm not saying that in general मैं सबको जाके एजेंसी में hi hello करता था. I used to keep to my creative people, and that's how I kind of, you know, like I used to, like whenever I used to sit for lunch also, I used to sit down with you specifically and the other people from the creative department. Yeah. So that conversation is important. Like you are sitting across another creative person and you are trying to reach out to that person in a creative space, and that person is communicating to you that nobody else knows in the room. That basically empowers you to get creative and kind of like you know, that subconsciously that person helps you out. अभी क्या हो रहा है सिचुएशन, घर पे बैठ के ना, I just have the laptop in front. I don't have that person. I don't share my lunch with you guys. So what eventually happens, it's my own battle. Like I feel very, very ISO. Like I feel like it's my battle and I have to fight it. And creatively नहीं, थोड़ा सा ना वो hurt करता है in the longer run.
I get that. Yeah.
Because These days, the juniors, and like you said, creative directors have been born in like 3 years, 4 years, and that's absolutely wrong. And you need to give 12 years, 10 years of time for a person to understand what is creativity, how efficiently can you knock some ideas off, what is the back end of that idea, how do you generate the best interest for that idea. That comes over experience. You can't just get it in 4 years. It's not how it's done. 4 साल में नोलन नहीं बना था, वो घूम रहा था कहीं. So the kids who are born today, they have seen advertising it's like a knockoff job, and that's something that is hurting. Like the creative people see this as creativity kya hota hai? It's like people asking like coronavirus kya hai? It's there. Creativity is also there. It's physical.
Creativity kya hai?
You need time, and you need kind of some sort of inspiration to touch that creativity. Otherwise, it will not come to you. Problem is like the juniors are fed with so much of information, and also they are also being mentored by people who don't have time. Like even though Natasha would want to sit with those guys, we don't have time. In this day and age, we don't have time. What they're doing is they're learning things on their own, and one of the crucial things that they've kind of unlearned is that creativity needs its own time to kind of come to you. It will not come to you eventually. As if fat se nahi aayega, eventually wo aayega. So if you streamline your relationship with your client, if you buy that time, if you buy that space for your creative life, I think that'll be ideal for you and also the client, because the client will get good stuff. He will not get half-baked ideas. नहीं तो आज के जूनियर 2 रेफरेंस देखता है, एक IKEA का ऐड देखा, एक पेप्सी का ऐड देखा, दोनों को क्लब कर दिया. क्लाइंट बोलते ये क्या लेकर आया?
Absolutely.
That's true. And like clients are very happy to see references. उनको कुछ original idea से ये but like reference तो ना भाई कुछ तो.
Yeah.
You forgot.
लाइव में रेफरेंस नहीं है तो आइडिया नहीं है.
ये कान सीता क्या?
बस white skin को brown skin कर दो, product को replace कर दो अपने product. We have a new idea.
Exactly.
Gaurav, you want to come in on that?
I wanted to come in on that because I feel that especially in the work from home scenario, one of the most difficult things, especially for people who are right-brained, is the compartmentalization of shit, right? The problem is, and I still don't know whether mera creativity iska creativity se bada hai ya chota hai. I don't know if there is a yardstick that can happen. Which means if work is being done, I have to assume that creativity is happening, irrespective of what you think, because it is because of subjectivity, whatever you want to give top and bottom to that, right? The one of the biggest learnings, especially from a right brain perspective, is that you have to sort of step out and believe believe that you can compartmentalize. Like AG was also mentioning, sorry, not AG. Tata was mentioning about first half जाता है मेरे लोग है या नहीं, और फिर बाद में second half is like अच्छा okay, now I have to step up, and now also problem is that my first half is gone, but I can't not do that first half bit also, right?
Sure.
So I feel that compartmentalization bit, at least from a very personal standpoint, is happening in a much better manner when it comes to work from home. Simply because sometimes because we think of stuff from an emotional lens, and we are very happy to be part of brainstorms and idea sessions and all of that. You tell me how many of you have gotten pulled into shit that you didn't have to, right?
I think that pretty much all of us.
अरे आना चलना 10 मिनट 15 मिनट, and then that 10 मिनट 15 मिनट हर आधे घंटे में होता है ना, तो it's just
सुन के पैनिक अटैक हो रहा है भाई, सुन के से चेस्ट में कंजेशन हो रहा है. It's just I'm like flight mode पे डाल दूंगा फोन अभी. It's just that.
So and the only bit from a work from home standpoint is that you can at least draw that line saying, I am caught up from 2:30 to 5:30. If you can work around this, please do. Otherwise, maaf kar do. You know what I mean?
But do you think, Gaurav, like the ability to compartmentalize your priorities in terms of like, chalo, मैं ज़्यादा stress ना लूँ, is sort of related to the ability to not give a fuck. Like when you're taking ownership, no, वो stress खुद को हम ही देते हैं because now the responsibility on us. I have to deliver. I have to shine.
Can I button on that really quick? Like while I get what you're trying to say, a lot of these brainstorms and briefs are like say of brands that you are not going to be a part of. They just pull you in because hey, I know he has good ideas. Let's just waste some of his time because like say he might just throw something at the board that might stick.
ना client को भी दिखाना है ना कि अपने team से there are 5 people. There are 5 boxes from my agency on the Zoom call in modern age. Otherwise वो seat fill करने के लिए बोला जाता. Please, it's that.
Agency में thumb rule है ना, like if somebody is staring at the wall, that means that the person is idle. उसको उठा के ले आओ. Productive हो जाए. अरे that guy must be thinking about something and he is supposed to.
Yeah, he probably is thinking like कब मैं निकलूं इधर से venture.
उसका epiphany आने वाला तूने उसको डाल दिया. So at least in work from home, nobody can see you like blankly staring at the wall. That's the good part. One good word, one great word that has helped during the work from home situation is power cut, and a lot of people have used that. Message डाल देता है power cut 2 घंटे के लिए chill मारो घर पे बैठ के. Best word.
But Bombay में होता ही नहीं है. Bombay में actually last year 2 बार हुआ. I remember.
Yeah, I can say that मैं डोंबिवली में रहता है. Even though like say you know what, I have set up everything like say with inverters and all that shit over here. Power cut. Sorry boss. No, fuck you. I'm not going to go.
Like the problem.
Tension जरूरत नहीं है वहाँ पे.
I think the problem is the fact that हमको ये सब चुपचागिरी का सहारा लेना पड़ता है. That is the problem.
That is the problem.
Rather than saying अबे जरा छोड़ ना, आधा घंटा मेरे को time नहीं है, I am thinking about something. Instead of that, power cut just sounds sellable.
Forget that. How many times people have used कि अरे मेरा इंटरनेट गया, इंटरनेट नहीं चल रहा है, वाईफाई का प्रॉब्लम है.
This whole idea of like in general, like, and I mean, I speak about myself also. It took me. I mean, right now I'm not in the agency space. I'm a freelance editor, but it took me also a while, like say even while being in the space, to say no or to be able to say no to people. To say like sorry, like but I'm busy. I'm out with my family right now. Or like it can be something as simple as like I'm having dinner with my mother right now. Can we talk about this in an hour? But like earlier it would sound stupid to say to a client, but it doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
Like the reason has to be like life or death. Like my aunt is passed away.
Exactly.
Like I quit my last job by killing some aunt or someone. Like I did that because urgency dikhana tha. And I was like, what else will I say? Because I'm not liking it here. It feels very like it's unimportant somehow. My feelings are not important for the organization. Yeah. So I can't be honest about it. No,
and that's what like say that was kind of an internal conflict for me also. Like say, why can I just honestly tell someone ki bhai, you're cutting into my time, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like दिन भर काम किया है. अभी like I just want a little bit of respite. मैं खाना खा के वापस आ रहा हूँ desk. Okay, like why is it become like say I know like say we like to romanticize about like how big an idea can get, and in that sense we as creators we take ownership of something. But having said that, like we also need to detach ourselves from that idea every once in a while, saying like okay. And I suppose like getting that sort of like say and a slightly external outlook to your idea also makes you feel grounded about it. I feel so. Like say you suddenly start looking at the chinks in the idea and you're like, okay, shit, there is a problem. But you need that breather, right? Otherwise, you get carried away in that fucking idea.
Yeah,
like you're and it's too late to be fixed. Like going to like then someone with a fresh perspective comes and says like अरे पर इधर तू base level पे ही हक दिया इधर idea.
Yeah.
Right. So like all that effort.
Are you trying to say पर idea किधर है?
Inside joke. We'll get to that another day. Oh,
no, but I mean, I think that's, I don't know. I look at it like a creative's curse, right? You like, मेरा बच्चा है, नहीं मेरा बच्चा है, like जाने नहीं दूंगा मैं, तुम्हें नहीं दूंगा, and you have that thing कि like the moment someone else is like you feel that they're going to like taint it, or they're going to like add their flavor to it.
Yeah.
I think it's that, I don't know, it's probably partly ego that drives you.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's tough. I mean, like
I think if Asim is in the comments, he will tell you, like, say, the kind of fights that I have with him over, like, say, over one idea of, like, say, this a certain way I want it executed versus how he wants it executed. I mean, this is not even clients, and this is two creators working with each other and on the same brand, but we still have those fights. Like, say, nay, if it's not this way, then it's not fun. Like, वैसे arguments होते हैं.
Is that why he kept getting the tapli in the video?
No. Like, he deserves it. Okay, in general, he deserves it. Oh, okay, but having said, okay, like ये तो हो गया, like ये सब बातें हो गई, but in general, like let's kind of recap the week very quick. The latest news, I think I shared with, I think I was talking with you, Peter, about it. Was the BOROSIL news? Did everyone check that out?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it was like four people in BOROSIL plant, I think, died, and many more, like, say, who were like, say, who suffered from COVID. And now BOROSIL has come out with a statement saying that, like, for any deaths vagara, like, say, people will get, like, say, their their families will get like 2 years worth of their salaries, and, like, say, they'll take care of baki log ka health,
their children's education until 18 in India. That's what
I mean, it seems like a step taken too late. I feel like, I mean, while I appreciate it, like, I mean, it's the least that they can do.
But my question is, do we even believe in proactivity? Like I'm just asking from not from a agency standpoint, or just as a people. We knew a pandemic was happening, and I am going a little out there.
Sure.
Still, we didn't do shit. After that, the second wave happened, and a lot of people died, and now is when we are waking up. So, so the place where I question it is that aren't we always reactive, वैसे, in nature?
Well, I mean, sure, but like my problem is that, like, say, it's only when the worst happens that we react. We don't react to, like, say, the initial signs.
To the warning signs could be.
Yeah. Like, say, I mean,
no, I'll give you a very simple example, right? So
yeah, go for it.
A friend of my wife's friend, so the group company that they work with, part of them also have pharmaceutical business. So internally, they've said that, if anyone needs medicines and all of that, we'll provide. But does it take, like, a family business that is so wide and has multiple things for you to do it? Why are not other companies setting up? I mean, like, I never realized the importance of having medical insurance given by a company until the first time. Like when you're like in your 20s, you don't care. You think like how you live till 70 and all, until like 2 years in advertising, and then it takes a toll on your health and you have back problems. But like some of the companies don't even give you basic medical and all of that. They're like, nay. And if now everyone's doing it, then of course it's kind of, too late.
Yeah, like, but that's kind of what my problem is, like, say, with all of these companies coming out in this week and saying, like, oh, we really care for our employees, we really do. So here's what we are trying to like, sorry, dude. Like, it seems too late for you to be talking about all of this, because the signs were there. The signs were there before the pandemic, years before the pandemic. Maybe, like, say, a few generations before the pandemic, but, like, say, it only, like, had to take people's deaths, like, for people to be a little serious about this. I'm sure, like, say, there have been, like, there have been deaths and I don't want to necessarily go into this macabre route necessarily when talking about this, but I'm sure there have been deaths in the industry or as a consequence of the nature of the industry. Like, stress, mental health issues are all real in this industry, and, like, say, that leading into, like, anything, like, say, be it habits or be it, like, suicidal behavior, like, it's a very predictable trajectory. So why should it come now when, like, say, when there's a pandemic going on, and like उसमें mental health का कुछ बात नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, वो सब अभी कर रहे हैं as a holistic angle to the whole thing. Like ये इधर, like, say, mental health का like directly like relation नहीं है इसके साथ, pandemic के साथ. तो ये सब measures, ये problems पहले exist करता था, तभी किसी ने कुछ बात नहीं किया. अभी क्यों कर रहे हैं? That is the problem. Like, say, I'm not against, like, say, people taking measures to, like, say, make their employees' lives easier. But sorry, boss. Like, yeah, I say this. Like, say, when I was there, and, like, say, when I had my problems and when I voiced my problems, nobody gave a fuck about it. It's exactly like, say, what Nigel का comment जैसा था वैसे. Natasha, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, honestly, when I read all over this week on LinkedIn, and when I spoke to my friends that they said that they're getting a 4-day work week and all of that, I really thought this is like, you know how some of the pharmaceutical companies work, they give you something from a heart, but that causes diarrhea, then they give you diarrhea medicine. So when one of my previous agencies, we used to go to the HR every day and tell them that, you know, dude, we're getting stressed out, we're working till early morning, you need to do something. It fell on deaf ears. That person said that I've spoken to my senior. The senior didn't do anything. But at the end of the month, they had these yoga sessions and some health expert coming. We don't want this thing, right? Even when I'm reading the 4-day work week, and yesterday one of my friends told me they're going to have this till June. I'm like, June ke baad you won't have mental health issues, or June ke baad you're not going to be stressed.
ये लॉकडाउन जैसे हो गया. 4-day week week is like the new lockdown.
These are PR gimmicks, and when like you said, right, अभी तो agencies को भी खुद का PR करना पड़ता है, because just featuring on Ad Age and all that is not enough. We need to go on Instagram and put posts about how well we're doing, or like we need to go on LinkedIn and let our employees put things for us. These are just PR gimmicks, because I don't think the industry still cares about their employees. This is just
doing a basic good deed isn't enough if you can't spin a story around it. फिर तो वेस्ट चला गया ना. क्यों करना है? Capitalize on every good deed that you do. That's the agency model. So, and there's no way around it. How can you get out of it? वही तो अपना mentality है ना. Like you're asking for the DNA to change of the people who run this thing. You're asking the DNA of the entire system to change, which is, I think, very impossible of an ask. Like, even if you sort of think of these things, like the mental health day, or like people are giving offs and all of that. These are all, if you look at it from the manager's POV, it's all an additional cost on the agency. ये सब खर्चा ही है. The more benefits an employee gets is a cost. Think of how difficult it is for you to get reimbursement for an Ola cab or a dinner with your client.
Man.
तो खर्चा निकालना बहुत difficult है from a manager. So these things are not like मिल जाएगा. So it's very, so I don't know. I was thinking about this for the last few days. और वो एक analogy वही आ रहा था कि if you're an employer or if you're starting an agency and you're decided to okay, I've got to like hire employees and have a team of at least 10 people under me. You should treat it with a commitment of having a child, because it will be expensive. If you're hiring people with the mentality कि कभी भी निकाल सकते हैं ना, तो गांड फटेगा भाई. कभी ना कभी ये LinkedIn में कोई ना कोई post मारेगा. Things will hit the fan. Like it's going to happen. So you have to, I don't know, there's a long-term commitment issue that's a problem. We join companies with the same mindset as they hire us these days, right? It's our generation. एक साल के लिए join करो, पैसा का bump होगा, I'll leave. That's our mentality. Even employers realize that. So they don't even think of us as family or long-term investments. तो वो है नहीं. तो आओ तो मतलब बस you're there, you just stick around until we fire you. That's the deal. So mental health, all of that, I don't know. There's no solution unless there's a crazy systematic change. और वो नहीं लग रहा है कि होगा कभी यार. Like
I mean, as cynical as that. Peter, you're saying?
No, I mean, like I like what you said, because what happens is companies say कि we are one family, but literally the treatment जो मिलता है ना stepson से भी और stepchild से भी better मिलता. Because that's the thing, right? And I feel that is one of the ways, because it's a complete clash. I see, like employees, or at least those dew-eyed employees are like, oh my god, like this is it, I'm going to learn. But the way the agency looks at it, you're another number, I need to do it.
Yeah.
And that I think that is where it's a two-way street. Unfortunately, what happens is I don't see like a lot of these PR statements that are coming, like we're talking all about, right? They're all statements that we are doing this, we're doing this. No commitments are being taken. No agencies kind of saying, like, even if we're talking, I didn't know that they were going to be till June. I thought it was only going to be till May, the 4-day work week. But then what happens? Like, is there an agency that's, for me, with the kind of commitment I'm looking, like where the agency head says, or the head of business says, ki boss, itna business ke liye, I can run my business for the next year. Bus, let's sustain that business. Let's not pitch anymore, or let's not do X plus 10 creatives. Let's do X creatives because that's the capacity. There's no resource. Like nobody's thinking about the employees. It's ki, how do I kind of manage not to live till today or tomorrow? Everyone's already thinking next year. But people don't know how they're going to live till next week. I mean, I think that's the problem.
That's something that I asked last week also, where I wondered, like, say, was this also the right time to do that, to kind of decelerate, to, like, say, maybe pull some gears back on this, instead of, like, say, trying to always, like, say, be pushing harder and harder. Maybe, like, say, especially, like, say, अभी सब लोग घर बैठा है, like, say, and लोगों का भी, like, say, there are chances that, like, say, there is at least someone in 1 degree of separation, like, say, for everyone who's suffering from COVID, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. So, like, would it not make sense, like, say, for companies to also kind of, like, say, you know what, maybe इस साल हम लोग एक साल नहीं किया award winning campaign चलेगा. Maybe this year we'll just care about the people.
It's not about awards. I mean,
I'm just saying that mostly.
I have seen both agencies which are raved about awards and also agencies which are not raved about or not bothered about awards.
I say awards loosely, Tata. Like, what I mean to say is, like, say, constantly pushing their employees to, like, say, work harder and, like, irrespective of circumstances. Like, awards loosely.
Like what I sense is the problem. Like, and I think Gaurang, you've also read what I wrote. I had to write on the Medium. Is that the agencies? I mean, 90%, 95% of agencies are thinking of sort of like an external relationship first and then an internal relationship. Like for them, the client matters to them the most because any day they can walk out of the agency and people will come and go. Like you see, like 4 years of creative director. So ऐसे 4 बना दूंगा मैं आज के डेट में. तो अगर ऐसे बना दूंगा तो you are somebody who is thriving and kind of like empowering attrition. This is the only industry जहाँ पे ना, like when you sit for an interview, people question like तेरा इतना jumps क्यों है? Nobody questions that what kind of work I've done, what kind of bosses I've been through, what kind of management I've gone through. People are looking at 6 months here, 1 year there, 11 months here. Why didn't even complete 1 year? The problem is that कि जिस rate से हम लोग काम करते हैं, जो hard burns होते हैं, 6 months of work in an agency is equal to like 3-4 years in a brand. That's how I see. Because every brief boomerangs to you at least 5-6 times. So imagine like it's on a sheet of paper, you can say that I'm working on this X brand for the last 1 week, but nobody knows the depth of what I've been through.
And the feeling of burnout, like, say, like it hits you so much faster than, like, say, that, like, I've been working as, like, say, a freelance editor for the last a little more than a year now. And, like, say, if the flow of work has been very steady and, like, say, enough to keep me very occupied. But having said that, at no point have I felt like, say, oh shit, this is too much. Or, like, I mean, like, there are times, like, say, where I'm working late in the night. It's not frequent, but, like, say, it never comes to a point where, like, say, now I'm feeling a sense of burnout from this. I can still come back, like, I can at ease come to a project, and, like, say, the only thing that bogs me down is, like, how slow or fast my system is. But beyond that, like, like, say, like, this is one of the reasons why I would never come back to an agency life, simply because, like, I'm so comfortable in, like, say, in this space. Like, maybe the money is not as good. Maybe, I don't know.
Of course, the money is not as good. What do you say?
I'm just checking.
But you never know. You never know.
I'm just checking the comments to see if you're getting any bad words or anyone's jealous of you.
See,
we'll wait for it.
The way I see it is, we are trying to solve a problem, right? We're trying to find the solution to a problem. But
sure.
At the same time, what's happening is especially at a place, be it an agency, be it a creator studio, be it a content house, an OTT platform, whatever, like which values your creativity, anything that values your creativity. There are and some of the solutions that Peter himself said did sound very sound, right? They were very executional. अच्छा ये नो तुम्हारा चादर कितना बड़ा है, and just to make sure that this is the amount that we choose to do, and this is what we choose, that this is what we do 100%. अब इसमें award आए ना आए, ये आए वो आए, लेकिन what happens is when you're trying to solve a problem through an operations lens, suddenly you will be like, अरे यार लेकिन हम तो creative लोग हैं. We also started the discussion in the same manner. कि अरे सोचने का है तो we can also think at night. Then how do we factor that in? Now, just to factor that in, we let all of these things collapse. You know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, we are at the same point where we started, and then we are like, अरे यार वेंचर कुछ को होता ही क्यों नहीं?
It all fucked.
No, I'm glad you said that, because you know what happens is, unfortunately, and you know that's where you see how many people actually. I'm going to take this again, but you see, like, you know, either you have your client servicing led agencies or you have your creative led agencies, right? And both their operations or their culture and everything is very distinct. And I think, and it's all across. So I feel that is where, you know, essentially your DNA or the way you kind of run things will be. I haven't like gone and done an analysis who's done the 4-day work week, but I'm sure like the client servicing team at all those agencies would have been like, "Abhi kya kare?" Matlab, who's going to put that mail to the client ki, "Hey guys, we're only working 4 days. Don't send us briefs on a Friday or a Saturday." Or don't get a head start by sending us on a Sunday, right?
Like in a way, it all starts with the clients. No, like you have to kind of sit down with them, and that has to be a conversation. Like, are you okay with working with brands, with agencies who are working 4 days a week? वो लोग अगर ना बोलते हैं ना, that's a domino effect कि सब ना बोलेंगे, कोई एजेंसी नहीं कर पाएगा, एम्प्लॉय का भी गांड फट गया. So it just starts from the client. They have to be okay with it. They have to. So I think, and that is a little proactive way they have to go about it. Like they should be encouraging the agency कि जाओ आप लोग ऑफ ले लो. Unless they say that, no, the agency वाले can't do it. Like चाहिए आपको काम चाहिए तो चाहिए भाई, एम्प्लॉय का अर्न मरा है. Like it's just that.
So basis of all of this, and this leads me into the next talking point of course. We always talk about, like, you know, whenever we are working on a brief, we're like, okay, client ka ye these are the parameters within which, like, say the client wants to, you know, have a creative brief sorted, like jo bhi your campaign ya fir jo bhi. So we know, like, say client ka SNPs kya rehta hai, but like say do agencies ever have like any SNP sorted? Like say, like or maybe that would have been a good step, right? Like say instead of like say doing all of this to placate people, like say हाँ 4 दिन हफ्ते में 4 दिन कर रहे हैं. How about saying, like say, okay, we are going to start saying no to anything that comes after 6 p.m.
Yeah. ये तो
sorry, I just have to say this. I knew an agency, and they started this. They drafted an entire mail, sent like a 4-page PDF. The head of strategy and the head of creative were called like 40 people का team, told everybody ये करेंगे, अभी से Monday से करना है, हाँ Monday से follow करेंगे. None of that happened. So, I'm like,
उसको फ्रेम करके वॉल पे रखना चाहिए कि हमने ये डॉक्यूमेंट बनाया.
Because guys,
जब तक that mail goes to the client, the client sends 4 briefs back. तो ऐसे जाता है वो. ये like आप क्या करें?
Out of 40 points, maybe 4 points हुए होंगे, but nothing.
So I must tell you this. So I think I'm one of the few people who've like done brand side and agency side. And I remember my boss, who was an ex-agency guy, of course, at that time when I was in the brand, said ki, I was in a team with all girls. So he's like, tu ye agency sambhal. I can't let the girls stay after 6. And anyway, मतलब 6 से बाद काम ही होता है. So I'm like, हाँ, but I come to work at 10. And if I'm going to like at 6 o'clock get ideas, give feedback, then stay back. अरे करना, तू लड़का है kind of thing. And I was just like, what? Like, how is this logical? And the thing is, like, imagine if you're only staying back because the agency, 5:36, like it literally used to happen. Like you think कि हाँ creative आज नहीं आने वाला है. And 5:30 को mail आता है. Then you're sitting and giving feedback on a campaign. Oh, campaign time was balls. Like I think I've done like what somebody said, the toothbrush comb thing in office. Campaign time is like gone.
Sorry. Bola, Natasha.
No, I'm saying like this was a very important topic that you brought up, like why work from home has been so beneficial for women. Because this was a real incident in, one of my previous agencies where 2 or 3 girls were traveling back in a cab. And at that time, the agency had not provided any vehicular support. It was just that, okay, you take an Uber and you reimburse. And then the Uber driver started misbehaving. They had to drop it, get a new one. And one of them stayed at like Mira Road and, Vasai, where cab wale to jaate bhi nahi hai. So women working in agencies had a lot of problems. A lot of them did not take up opportunities when they got one because पहले से ही जो interview कर रहा है बोल रहा है हमारे यहाँ पे late nights होती है आप कर पाओगे ना. So a lot of them got isolated. This was a very good thing, and I think agencies also need to take this step that if they have, because we stay in India, right? No matter which part, Delhi, Mumbai. We women are scared about our lives when we are traveling back at 2 o'clock.
Oh, sir.
Can't sleep in cabs. No girl sleeps in cabs when she's returning home. So,
like, on that note, I would want to add, like, say there was a comment that Divya made over here. She said, I took work from home once due to cramps, and the client POC, he actually asked me to fuck off, complained to my manager and his, both women. But उसकी जो वो लड़कियों ने जो ली है, like say that was sadistic pleasure. Like, I mean, I'm glad like say he got what he deserved. But having said that, why is it like say too much to even, particularly if it's a creator or whoever, like say fuck create, like particularly, like say कोई बोल रहा है कि उनको problem है आने को काम पे. Why can't it, like say, and they're not shying away from work when they're saying that. Why is it so much, like why is it too much to ask, like say भाई मैं घर से काम करूँ. Also coming back, like say when we're talking about SNPs, like I don't necessarily think it should, like say, while it should be like say an organizational thing that should be an understanding, it should be kind of communicated by your servicing person, saying like say boss, okay, like you're sending me something at 7 o'clock right now, but we are trying to fix our working hours at office. So like 8:30, we want to let everyone know. So whatever you're sending after 6 o'clock, we'll address it at the fresh thing in the next morning. That becomes a task for, like say, for us to ask, like like नहीं client ने अभी कुछ तो भेजा है, like say, like no ये नहीं करेगा, like say एक छोटा creative change अभी नहीं करेगा, तो like say we are going to lose the client. Like we are always on the tethers because of that shit, man. Like say, I don't.
Oh yeah. वो client lose होने वाला है, I think is like.
Like what is
the servicing का best? वो उसका बंदूक है.
Dude, I remember like say when I was working in the same agency as Gaurav, a couple of so I used to be on both sides, so coordinating with the creatives and like say speaking with the clients. So like I was like a mix between a copywriter and a servicing person, because the roles were very blurred over there. The people that I started to speak with, like say on the brand end, I used to tell them, like say, like on a very personal level, like say, it won't, like right now it won't work. It's a little too late. My guy also has been working too much for like too much for too long. But we will क्या कहते हैं, we'll address it in the morning, or we'll find a way out. And they were understanding enough. Like say we try to make like a boogeyman out of the fucking client. So like say client समझेगा ही नहीं अपनों का problem को, like he's not a human only. So I mean, like is this something that like say the agencies also need to fucking get understand, like say on some level, like say okay, humanity doesn't mean like say एक दिन off दे दिया. but it is kind of like say a symbiotic thing that between the client and agency relationship.
You can't even like go into this argument. No, like if you try reasoning with philosophy about humanity, फिर तो भाई तुम train के घर जाओ.
लंबा चलेगा. Night.
Charge them. That's what you charge them. अगर 6 बजे के बाद काम आया ना, आपको 2 times पैसा देना होगा. Are you okay with that? Okay, give it up. Because we are happy working for money. We are happy working for money, dude. आपको इस time के बाद prolong करना है 2 additional days you want. We agreed on 5 adaptations, but you want the 6th one. पैसा. So everything is money. And once the red flags started going on, they'll also do that. Ki, Achha, chalo, we'll have to think twice or thrice before asking these fuckers to do some last minute shit or some additional work that they didn't sign up for. Or ultimately, it's ठीक है ना. मतलब वही, you're also not refusing the client ki because 6 बजे के बाद हम लोग काम नहीं करते. You're not doing that shit. You're like पैसा दो. And that is enough of a break for them to stop requesting work, because otherwise invoice must आएगा हम लोगों के पास. Stress
and I agree. I think it's a very good idea, and I had a couple of agencies who would do it, because I feel that comes from, first of all, having a value that you've attached to yourself, right? And it goes to even what Tata was talking about earlier, that I actually appreciated as a client agencies who came back to me and said, boss, it's not happening today. You know, that kind of honesty. And I think it comes down to that client agency relationship and the person who's the POC on both ends. Yeah. If you've established that relationship where you know that, hey, I cannot push beyond this, and this person has just put up this red flag saying, boss, I'm not going to, or like say, for example, if the guy says, my creative person is left, what do you do? Like, तुम बैठ के MS Paint पे ad बनाओगे, creative बनाओगे, right? और adaptations करोगे. What do you do?
Ideas मत देना तू अभी.
अरे होता है. I've actually heard किसी ने बोला कि अरे वो तो Photoshop वाला है. Oh shit, MS Paint पे नहीं खुलेगा क्या? And I was like, fuck. But I think that's what it boils down to, because as an agency or as a creative person, if you put a value to yourself, I know, like you're talking about AG, you're talking about like 5th, 6th adaptations. There are some people, unfortunately, right, and other agencies will say, "Arey, wo charge kar hai, main free mein de raha hu."
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That fucks it up, right? Because if I think like the big boys, and you know, in today's day and age, with everyone merging, I don't know which agency is which agency anymore. Every day there's a new thing on agency FAQs and all.
Oh, yeah, but, and like say, and the number of makeshift agencies that are popping up right now, it is insane.
So I think if we're looking at like some headway, right, the big boys need to put their feet down and say, "Ki boss, this is the new standard," and deal with it. I mean, I'll give you a good example. I remember this agency, when I was on the brand side, actually came to me, and I still remember this meeting well, because my boss at that time and I were just looking at each other being like, wow, this guy has balls. So it was a CD of this big agency who came and was making a informal pitch to us to do creative work. And he straight up said that, boss, I'm going to charge you X amount, but if I'm charging you X amount, I want you to spend 1.5 CR on media. Otherwise, my ideas are not worth it. And so I was like, he कैसा pitch कर रहा है? मतलब like he wants the business or he doesn't want the business. मतलब क्या हो रहा है? But later on, when I think about it, right, the guy knew that this was my value. This is the amount of time I'm going to spend. If it's not reaching so many eyeballs, if it's not doing, why am I wasting my time?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Like, that gets more respect, actually.
I'm not going to put, and he said, I'm going to put the senior resources for you. I'm going to put these kind of levels of people. So and so will be there. I mean, this is something I'm talking about was 4-5 years ago. Today, if you have one agency telling you, like I said earlier, कि अरे क्यों मैं इसमें 10,000 में करके दूंगा. Unfortunately, it's a cutthroat environment, right? And
but then you have to decide who you want to compete with also, no? Like I can't compete with someone who's writing for 25 paise per word. नहीं है वो मार्केट मेरा भाई, मतलब मेरा दारू का पैसा उससे ज्यादा है. So I can't even do that. So वही, I think there is a, like I posted something today as well, like in terms of how freshers can also get a market for themselves by charging low. But सबका एक मार्केट है ना, वो 30 रुपए का पॉपकॉर्न भी मिलता है, 300 रुपए का भी मिलता है. जिसको पॉपकॉर्न खाना है वो खा लेगा, whatever the budget is that person. So it's there.
I feel agencies need to know the kind of clients they want to work for. If they don't and I mean while I was at the brand side, I met with an agency which said we will not pitch to you. हमको धंधा देना है दो, मैं pitch नहीं करने वाला. And to me I was like fuck. I mean I get it. If you're talking to a startup like that or whatever like that, I get where you're coming from because I've been through that rigmarole also. And I was really happy when someone came and told me that कि मैं pitch नहीं करने वाला, ये हमारा credits है, ये हम है और हमको अभी धंधा दो, नहीं देना है तो छोड़ो, कोई problem.
Yeah, otherwise like it feels like agency is giving a copy test again and again, right?
You know, the base for any kind of client and a digital agency relationship is always based on the social retainer. That is the holy grail on which we work. And social retainer is something that kind of like, you know, like you talked about a creative idea needing those eyeballs and needing that money juice coming out. What are we working on? Like 30 posts, 40 posts a month, that's a contract. On all those posts, how many posts are the ones who get proper media? How many posts get like 1 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakh to reach that kind of audience? If all these posts are going on freebies, and you know how these platforms have their own kind of like, they hold your post back, they hold your reach back by a certain degree, then why are you spending this amount of time if you're not doing advertisement? This is an advertising agency, right? You're not just putting out posts for the heck of it. It's not your daughter's birthday that you're just putting out a posting.
हमें organic reach चाहिए बाबा.
Organic.
Oh my god.
Organic.
Arre, but we are hiring you, no? You are whatever you want.
You do something creative, no? You think you just do some viral.
वायरल कर दो और एंगेजमेंट अपने ऑफिस से करा दो ना. एंगेजमेंट 25 लोग ऐसे डांस कर लेंगे, अपने आप चैलेंज बन जाएगा.
कुछ done that, man. Like, never again.
कुछ growth hack यूज करो ना.
Growth hack.
Man. Okay. But okay. Now that nicely leads into the next point. Like, while like say we can sit and point fingers at the agency and like say rightfully so. Like, I think there is a majority fault at the agency level. Like say in terms of how they have kind of incubated, like say the talent and how they go about it. But having said that, like say should all the fault lie at their end? Like say like how much of the initiative also should come from the employee? Like say about pushing forward, like say like a change, so to speak. Like say what I mean to say, like say on an individual level, like of course like I can't speak for like say a collective, because that becomes like that becomes unionization. Like say मैं उधर नहीं जा रहा हूँ, but like say on a personal level, where can I come in and say like okay, enough is enough. Like sorry, where can I come in and say like okay, enough is enough, and fine, like say you guys have sent me like say a brief at this point, but I have to like kind of bounce right now because I have other commitments, because I am a human and I have a life to live. Like or for that matter, like say even like we all have like say we like I'm sure like say we all have like say bad practices that we have been a part of on some level, and I'm not pointing fingers at anything when I say that, but is there like say some sort of accountability that like say even the employees have to give to like say to the work of like say to contributing perhaps like say to the kind of toxic workplace? Maybe Natasha, you want to take that?
Definitely, I believe that I mean, when I think about this, and I've thought a lot about this, I feel that there has to be a part that even the employees have to play. Firstly, we need to decide our self-worth, because all of us at some point start feeling guilty just to say कि like मुझे आज जल्दी जाना है, या मेरे dad का birthday है, या मेरा friend is coming from somewhere, I need to bounce. Lot of obviously that has been fed to us. कि like look at him or look at me, I being the boss, I'm doing this and that. But I think we need to let that guilt set aside and just be like, I need to go, so I will take this up first thing tomorrow, but let me go. Also, things like empathy need to come in, whoever are the senior managers at this position. I think I spoke about this the last time as well.
Yes.
You need to be a little more empathetic. especially the junior crop that's coming in, the kind of impression that they are getting of the industry. Unko pehle se has ke bataya jata hai, oh, you're an intern, get ready for late nights. That's not something to be celebrated. That is not the kind of picture we want to put out there. If we are seniors, whoever, we need to represent in a good way. And also the responsibility of collective working has to be there. Like this work from home has helped us, like brainstorm at our times and all of that. But even when we used to brainstorm in office, I remember there used to be some people who would just sit there and there are like 2 people thinking of ideas and 4 people chilling. Even those things lead to late nights because आपने जब काम करना था तब नहीं किया, तब आप chill कर रहे थे. You were probably rolling one and heading downstairs with your gang. So, so like I think it's also time management on the employee's part that will really help. Like just do your job at the time. So definitely the agencies are at fault, but even we are wasting time. No?
Exactly. Like because I know for a fact that like while it's good to have like people like say who recognize that you're in the same boat as they are and like to sit down with them like say maybe over lunch or like say maybe over smoke and tell them like yeah life sucks but like how much are you going to like say kind of ruminate over that problem and like say at some like because asking for a systemic change is going to be difficult, right? When they say that has to be a ground up sort of a problem to solve. But what we can work on perhaps is something more immediate. That is us on an individual level. So, is there anything that you any one of you would like to add, like say to help perhaps like say particularly anyone who is trying to get into it or is new to this kind of work lifestyle? Like say what they can do perhaps to avoid getting into like the tropey pitfalls of like this sort of an agency. AG, perhaps you want to start with?
I mean, one angle that has personally worked for me, and I think it does work in general for anyone, is that when you're getting into an organization, like just try and make yourself indispensable. So when the organization realizes no matter how small the team is, the work can't happen without you, because when you're working at it, you get your shit done. It sort of boils down to the same point that stick to your work, get your job done. So when they sort of depend upon you, you can come to them and make those demands ki mujhe abhi ghar jana hai. Because then they won't fuck with you. They'll fuck with the client. Ki bhai, keep this person calm. This person works. This person we can't let go of. So that mentality, you have to make yourself someone who's hard to bargain with. So they are forced to bargain with the client or push someone else's deadlines. Ki deadline ko piche karo bhai. Isko mat ruko idhar. So that is that whole thing boiling down to self-worth and what you contribute. And again, वही है, मतलब काम करते जाओ तो it's in a very vicious circle, in a way, chicken egg situation, because you're working to ensure that you don't overwork. So it's very weird that way, but that's the only solution, dude. है तो हम लोग एक काम के धंधे में ही ना, ये कोई बर्थडे पार्टी तो है नहीं कि सबके हिसाब से चलेगा. Let's be real. So
maybe I would want to add to that before Gaurav. Like say, I mean, I was going to come to you only, like say by adding this. Ki I think we all need to acknowledge that, like say, it is business at the end of the day. You get what I mean? Like say, if we tend to romanticize our work and like whatever, like say, that becomes a huge problem to deal with. Because like then we are like say, we look at ourselves like as a higher being, like say, मैं creative आदमी हूँ.
फिर तो कमर्शियल आर्ट में मत घुसो, फिर do street art करो, वहाँ पे बहुत जगह है, नाटक करो. There are many things you can do.
Exactly.
मैगी खाओ बस.
I think acknowledging that it is a business will help, like put time to the money. You know what I mean? Gaurav?
I think you also need to think of yourself as a business. Or a business unit at the worst. And the scenario that you painted was at the start of this person's career. At the start, the problem is very easy to solve. You fuck off. You remove yourself out of that toxicity, and you find your birds of a feather to flock with somewhere else. The problem happens when you are at a slightly senior level, because salaries, Allah, because it also, you also have to mentally fit with your next employer and all of that, right? I think that is when a lot of weird harm happens to you as a person, and then that is inflicted on your team and whatnot. So I feel it's in that sense, yes, you have to make yourself indispensable by not overworking and whatnot. But you have to sort of be able to draw a line, because at the end of the day, you have to think of yourself as a business, which is you, because that's what you're doing. You're selling yourself. You're selling a part of your mind. You're not selling anything else. You're not selling time, because if it was only about time, we would have been paid per hour, and everyone would have become a millionaire by now. But it is not that. You're just selling parts of your headspace, and I think you need to be able to sort of draw the line from the atapas. I think that's
perfect.
Like, and on that note, very quickly, like, this is something that I just want to reach out to a few people. Some of them are also in chat, like, who are speaking with very recently. If don't wear like say working till late hours as a badge of honor when you are speaking with your potential employer. एक HR के साथ बात कर रहे हो और like say उनको अगर बता रहे हो कि I can work till late nights just to get like say something done, like don't wear it as a badge of honor. How about trying to get something out in time, or like say that's kind of like say where your efforts lie. You don't have to promise big, but like say be realistic. And like if the let's say, see, if the HR or whatever the company is conceited enough, then they will try to rope you in for some with some stupid carrot that they'll dangle in front of you. But like otherwise, like you have to be honest, man. Like say otherwise, because kaisa hai, like say I think the industry wants you to like say kind of bend over backwards. And like say it's only when like say we kind of stand up and say sorry, boss, can't not happening. Will they also like say think like, okay, maybe I'll not have him or her on board, but like say I won't necessarily fuck with this person. I suppose so. And like maybe like say tab tak aapka CV will be good enough for people to say nothing bad about you either. So like say to refute you. Tata, you want to add to that?
See, I mean, no matter what place you are in and no matter how long you're going to be, you're eventually going to leave that place. I'm talking about advertising agencies.
Sure. Yeah.
What the attrition rate is. And most of the times, I don't know if it's just me or with people around, is that you don't leave on a extremely happy note. Like there are some places that I've left and I've felt like I should come back again and I should, like this place has given me those tools and I should come back and sort of raise the next generation up. But other places I don't feel. I'm like, I'm done with this place. I'm done with this place. I don't even feel bad about that place. And what we should do is basically kind of like raise our standards to a certain level. Like like in advertising, it's the easiest industry to get into. I mean, that's how I feel. Anybody, any mechanical engineer, any designer, any kind of person gets into it. It's very easy to get into it, and then there is no like in other industries you see like there are workshops, there are protocols, there are certain standards which are set which improves you in the longer run. Over here it's just work. You will obviously crisscross with people who have your kind of wavelength, listen to your kind of music, watch your kind of movies. That's your only takeaway. That's like you will make friends, you will make good bosses. I mean, a couple of them, and then you will be like, "हाँ, इसके लिए काम करना है, उसके लिए काम करना है, ये सही था, ये गलत था." It should be a holistic feeling. That what do I feel about this industry? I feel great about one particular agency, but I feel horrible about 10 other places. So I feel like like the entire industry in general needs to sort of like come back, try to brainstorm, like we said, and figure out what is that they're missing. Maybe they're servicing led, maybe they're creative led, but they should have certain protocols which improves the employees. I feel like a lot of agencies also feel like the more workshops I give to my people, the more intellect they'll become and they'll leave my place. So that's another sort of like paranoia that happens. But you need to give them the right sort of tools. You need to kind of groom them, because then they will feel trusted that these guys are taking care of me, I should take care of them. Advertising has always been like the product, the byproduct has been of like trust and care. The more you care for your employees, the more the employees care for you. If you are treating them like shit, they will treat you like shit.
100%. So just to add on what everyone said, and I love how AG and Gaurav talked about looking at yourself as a business, right? It also comes back to what you was talking about, Gaurav, like, Gaurang, sorry, where you are so romanticized into the idea कि मैं advertising में काम करता हूँ, ये करता हूँ, मैं वो करता हूँ. But when you're in that moment, no one thinks कि अगले interview पे मैं क्या बोलूँगा. Because, while you can say all of this, the person sitting across the table can see through whatever, those ideals or those dreams that you're having. So having a slightly objective idea and already envisioning your next step, because it comes back to what even Tata was saying, where the attrition rate is so bad. I know very few people who've actually gone back to agencies after they've left, right? So if you're already thinking of your next step or at least building something, because everyone's living in the moment, unfortunately, and no one's thinking ki iske baad kya hoga. If you're going to burn bridges, then what do you do next, right? Unless everyone thinks ki brand ke side pe jao, but no one realizes ki if you're sitting on the brand side, you're still talking to an agency, right? So it's not like suddenly you're in like Maldives chilling, sipping on some pina coladas or something. Sab same now mein baithe hai, right?
Hey, on that note, really quick, there are a lot of people like say dropping anecdotes, personal anecdotes perhaps in the chat, and we'll try and read some of those like say towards the end of this live stream. But maybe we're just like a couple of points away from that. If you guys have any questions, please add those questions right now, like say in the chat. And if you want to direct them to anyone specific, please go for it. Okay, like as we move on to the next point, I suppose. Okay, coming coming back. I think we have broadly discussed like in terms of like say like क्या fix हो सकता है like say in industry, because like say clearly like 4 days or sorry 4 days working, 3 days off, or having a therapist on board and all that shit, like say I'm not completely sold on that. And like say while maybe like say like we discussed, perhaps like say if agencies start thinking about like ground level problems and start setting up SNPs according to that, like कुछ हो सकता है. Like say I don't think any agency has ever thought about setting up any SNPs for themselves, but like maybe this is a good time. But having said that, like given how the industry is, like given how the industry has been um, treating its employees over the years, it's not just like right now that we are seeing any problem arise. It's just like right now it just culminated into like say a larger problem. But like, do you feel like say and I don't want to sound cynical when I say this, but like as people who are in the agency space right now, and particularly looking at Gaurav, Natasha, and Tatha, like is there any motivation left to like say to be working in an agency, or other like say what would you tell, say I wouldn't say your younger self, but like say perhaps someone new who's joining the agency, who wants to get into digital marketing or marketing in general? Like say, what would you tell them? Like say, oh, here are the pros versus the cons, and like say the pros that outweigh the cons of joining the industry. Gaurav, you want to start?
This suddenly became Khubte Dite Gupte, huh?
This reference is only like two people are going to get, that is you and me.
That's okay. So, see, I mean, I would rather advise my younger self rather than trying to patronize someone else, because I don't think I have achieved enough to be able to do that.
So honest.
For me, I feel given a chance, I would do this again, bro. Like it has not been easy on the agency side. It has not been easy on the brand side, but I think I think there is some creativity is a very infantile business. Okay, it's not. It can't be mature, right?
Sure.
Until and unless you're looking at it from a standards and practices sort of a way, for which you will have to hire someone else with that kind of a skill set to be able to do that thinking for you. So for me, everything just boils down to the kind of work that you get to do, the kind of people that you get to meet. Like for example, if the kinds of conversations that we've had earlier, and the kinds of conversations, because yes, we were married to the idea of a brainstorm, and every discussion post that seemed like a brainstorm if you were talking to that kind of people, right? So I think those conversations were extremely not just enlightening, but also it did spark a positivity at some point.
Sure.
Which is why after leaving, I did decide to come back to it all. So I think it's just a matter of, but in the agency ecosystem, you need to find out what you want to do. Instead of just trying 20,000 things and then being like, "Arey yaar, नहीं मेरे को तो अब ये करना है क्योंकि all the other things that I've tried I have not really enjoyed." So I think I would tell myself that कि like after learning and all of that, there was a certain thing that I wanted to do, which I'm getting to do now, but not at the start of my career. So maybe that is something I would like to change.
Which is why I want to come back to you with a couple of questions. Like, so first of all, when we talk about like trying to get things done, like and make things work in an agency, like say the complaints are always like we always have a complaint about our bosses saying, you wish that like say VP servicing had a little more spine. You know what I mean? Like like say to tell the clients off or something like that. Or for that matter, when it comes to like say talking about like say when you mentioned the key figuring out what you want to do, let's say that becomes like say too much of a thought for one to figure out, especially if they're a fresher in the industry, because they just join as copywriters. Like say that buffer, they need that kind of buffer period, right? Because like say I remember like say when I joined as a copywriter, like मुझे नहीं पता था like say like if there are levels to this job or where I could go with it. Like say if they're like say okay, can get if there are certain things that I can learn, like say that can push me into either media or stat or whatever. So what should be like say do you think there's an ideal buffer period for someone to figure that out? Like,
yes. One definitely needs to try and figure that out in the first 2 to 3 years of their career, so that and if for the first 8 to 12 months they are not okay with the whole industry as such, they should just leave. Yeah.
I mean, just to add on that, internships are great.
Yeah.
I mean, I did an internship in an financial auditing firm when I was 19 years old. I would rather watch paint dry. It was that boring.
Yeah.
So I'm telling, like, because I did all this kind of stuff, right? I then did like accounts in a company for a summer, and I enjoyed it. I was good, but it wasn't like creatively stimulating, or I wasn't enjoying it. Like, it's just numbers, making statements, all of that. It's because I did all that stuff when I was there younger. It's only later did I realize, okay, this is what I don't want to do. Unfortunately, and fortunately, there are some, I mean, like I told you last time I teach, I encourage everyone, like, do the internships, make mistakes, but don't do, like I tell everyone, whoever's listening, don't do free internships, please. Never do. Those are just exploitation tactics. But I think internships are a great way for everyone to kind of realize, or at least get an idea in a short period of time, what they like or don't like. At least that's what my experience is.
And divorce, like I said, just building on to what Peter is saying, and divorce yourself if you find, because I can't tell you I can't tell myself whether I like something or not if I've spent X amount of time, but I definitely know in the first 20 days that ye nahi.
Thin slice theory. One slice of pizza is enough. to judge the whole pizza.
Yeah.
एक episode पूरा series judge करो. वही है.
Just enough skin in the game. फिर बाद में like say pull it.
Yeah.
Right.
On that, Natasha, you want to add to it? Let's say in terms of what is motivating you right now to continue in the industry, or what would you tell someone else, like say who's joining fresh? They say
I had a new intern who came late last year, and now she's become a permanent copywriter and all that. And I love the industry, although I'm bitching about it all the time, but I really like it. I really love advertising because I don't know, dude. It's like, I can sit and write a book, but the fact that I'm influencing somebody's decision and, in a nice and creative way, it's the whole power in itself, right? I know.
I'm just looking at AJ's face.
But having said that, I really love the agency. Why? Because I talk to, and again, no disrespect to anybody. I speak to a doctor, they know about their profession. I speak to an engineer, I speak to somebody who's in the chemical industry. People who work in agencies, now उनको जो brand मिला उनको सब उसका पूरा पता है, history. I can talk about history, I can talk about automobiles, I can talk about wide variety of things. Yeah. I think it's amazing to work in an agency because when you're doing the briefing, you go like in depth of it. But to anybody who's coming new, who's joining the agency again, and I keep going back to the seniors because it is their responsibility, and that's what I'm working on with my junior copywriter right now. That I tell her, कि like ये industry में ना ऐसा चुतियाब होता है, but hey, this is a way to deal with it. So you keep them ready. You tell them that these are the twists and turns that are going to come your way, but this is how you navigate them. And I think that is what a lot of us need to do. We need to help each other out because we are in the same boat. A lot of times in my earlier workplaces, I had people from the creative team, not even on the brief, but they used to come and be like, "Kya kar rahe? Help chahiye? So let's jam."
Yeah.
So a lot of times, even that really helps, like being empathetic, understanding that okay, somebody is good.
Yeah.
And if they are, and exactly what Gaurav said, I agree to that. If you are not cut out for the job, while I'm not saying that we should take all the bad things that the industry is giving us, but there's a certain way it functions. And if it's not for you, try to identify it early on, try to speak to someone early on and go for a different path. Like you can do that, right? Internships are amazing for that. So yeah, definitely.
On a tangent, it is something that you just mentioned. Like say, if you speak with any other professional, like say, be it a doctor वगैरह, तुम डॉक्टर के पास जाओगे, like reports दिखाओगे, डॉक्टर बोले कि sorry, dude, you're fucked, your health is a mess. You need a surgery for this shit or some shit like that, and you have to take his word. You can go for a second opinion, but let's say, like, if the second person is also going to say the same thing, like you have to, like say, क्या कहते हैं, like say, you have to respect like their expertise.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen with us. It doesn't happen in this industry.
Insult if someone takes a second away,
I remember, like, there are times like when I remember there were times when like someone some brands have come back to us saying, like, oh, okay, but like say ये हमको करना नहीं चाहिए or something like that, or this is beyond the scope. And why can't we just say, like say, bhai, like we are the experts. Like, see, let us handle it.
That's why we are your partners, creative partners, digital partners, whatever.
We are what is the other one? We are your brand custodian. Yes, your brand custodian.
वो सब बोलने के लिए ठीक रहता है यार, but
some people call them to be the watchdogs also. So I don't know.
But sorry, just going back to what Natasha said, right? And I think what's very important, not only for us but everyone else, right, is being role models. I think one common problem I see going back in my years, right, is if you don't have a good role model, right, or if the person who's your boss is like someone who's doesn't have your best interest, then you end up bitter, no matter like how great a person you are or whatever. So having that right role model in there, or identifying, if it's not your boss or somebody there, identifying someone else who's from another agency, another company, who can kind of be a role model and guide you. I think that is something that, unfortunately, even though it's very basic, is missing. Yeah. You get so caught up in the day to day, right? You don't kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture. मुझे क्या करना है, क्या बनना है. It's a survival. And unfortunately, I just wonder, I was just thinking while you were saying earlier, is that after all of this ends, right, and everyone talks about hum office वापस जाएंगे, who the hell is going to end up in office? What, like, will we recognize each other at the end of the day? Or will it be like 4 out of 10 people from your team who will actually survive this, right? Because everyone's on survival instinct now. So I don't know.
But I completely agree with you in terms of like about the role model bit, because that was one of the things that kept me going with in my first job. I would have quit like say in the first couple of months, but like I had a very good boss at that time, and sure, like say because like the project that I was working on that now at that time it was very time investment based. Like it was a production. I had to see over like say work of 3 or 4 editors and whatnot. So it was like, I had to pretty much be on top of things. Like and I must have bitched about this the last time. How like I used to work days in that office. But having said that, it was my boss who helped me figure a way out of it. Of course, it was not like say he didn't hold my hand and like say hold me out of the situation. But he told me if you're in a problem, find a way to fix it. Like say if you cannot keep coming if you cannot keep coming back to me again and again, like say saying like say ये लोग vendor वाले लोग तुझे त्रास दे रहे हैं और client वाले लोग तुझे त्रास दे रहे हैं.
Tough love basically.
Yeah, so it toughen up or like exactly like say so I used to go to office, like there used to be a whiteboard behind the editors, and I would like say set like say daily deadlines, like say okay आज मुझे ये चीज खत्म करके चाहिए and I'm going to leave at 7:30 after I've checked the status of this. like say इसका status report मैं 7:30 बजे भेजेगा client को और मेरे boss को और फिर मैं वटेगा इधर से. It was that, and like say that got like say a lot of people in order, and like eventually the project be complete हो गया उसकी वजह से. But that's what
I mean, for a boss also, na, because you were like talking about bosses, I think that more than being truthful or more than being like like to be like correct at the right time. Yeah. What I also have always thought out in my creative leaders, and sometimes I've kind of not sort of like embraced a certain leader, is because of the creative charisma. That is something which is important for a creative leader, and that is not there right now. What we're doing is execution heavy work. Nobody's putting that extra amount of brain to sort of like groom the team, to get that personality out of the team. If you look at 80s, 90s, 2000, when the CD used to walk out of the agency, the entire flow used to walk out. Yeah. That is not happening anymore. That is not happening because everybody is a separate entity and people are just doing their work and getting out of office. That, I mean, if I have to take like, let's say a junior person in my team, or when I have to groom that person up, I need to ensure that that person feels absolutely truthful, because sharing a creative idea is like a piece of your heart, or like, a piece of your mind. Like you will feel shy about it. You'll feel like it is the most fuck all idea I've had. But if your boss is encouraging and if your boss has that charisma, he will take it out and he will sharpen it. But he will not also make it into his own credit. He will credit you for that idea. He will say that this guy has brought up this idea. I just gave it a little push, and this is the formation of the idea right now. It gives so much of credibility. It gives you credibility to the top management because you're selling the idea. And it also gives the youngest person in your team that courage to kind of like speak up for himself.
I completely agree with you on that, because that was kind of the dynamic between me and Anmol, who works with us right now in Tadpatri Talkies. Like, so we started together at the same agency, and Gaurav also used to work with us at that time. So a lot of times, like Anmol is like say pretty much like a raw talent. So like his ideas would like say how do I say this? Like say they needed a little bit of like say chiseling, I suppose, like say for it to be sold to someone. But like for you to like say see through all of the layers of BS and like say find like say okay at its core like say it's a good idea that can be made into something bigger. That is perhaps like say where the talent lies, and like say which is why I suppose Anmol and I like say we have a good relationship to this day, and we made sure to like say we like for the time that we were in the agency, like say we came across as like as formidable, I suppose.
Batman and Robin. Batman कौन था?
Oh yeah. Like Gaurav would testify to that. but yeah, Tata, on that note, I like, because I was bringing this question to everyone. You also mentioned that your dad was, like, say, has been in advertising. Now you think you would pass it on to your child, like आगे जाके you would tell them कि, like, say, hey, you know what, dude, like, say, industry में problems है, but, like, it will be fun if you get into it. But ये मत बोलो.
So, I mean, so like the reason why we bitch about it and the reason why we are so angsty about it at sometimes is because we also love it. If we didn't care about advertising, we wouldn't have ranted about it, or we wouldn't have spoken about it for 2 hours. We still want to kind of, like, encourage the pros and kind of build on what our sort of like predecessors have taught us, or certain do's and don'ts. And we want to harness that power and bring up the younger audience, because the younger lot which is coming, the writers, the art directors, they are dynamic. Like, I see my brother who's half generation from me, and he's super talented, and I had no such tools to me when I started off. So I see this younger generation which is coming up with so much of potential. All you need to do is channelize your thoughts into the right kind of thing for advertising, and not the wrong kind of thing. Don't fool around with your ego, because ego is just a passe. Like, it will not shape up your work. It will not give you anything. What you need to focus on is your craft. What you need to focus on is your companionship with other people. Keep on sharing ideas, cross sharing all these ideas with each other, so that at the end of the day, your end product is something that fits for you, and not just your overall personality. The very thing is, like, if you look at the whole expose that has happened about advertising, and how the fundamental people who got hit, or the people who got called out, are the creative leaders. The reason why is because that's the kind of mold that they have worked on. Like, I am this person, you get a chance to work for me. Why? Who am I?
And interesting enough, like, sorry, continue, please.
No. I was just adding on to it.
Like, Peter shared a link with me earlier today, like, say, brand equity ka I think so, where it was an appeal to what agencies are those? They say that, like, that govern, like, say, all agencies.
So I mean, like, let's forget like that. I'm just saying, like, dude, Ad Club has been around for so long, right? And all the guys from Ad Club, and each city has their own Ad Club. They're not like junior people. They're not like these are very, very senior guys. I have still not seen one statement from any of them. I've not seen any one of them kind of saying, and I'm not taking names because it's all cities to there. I've not seen one of them say, like, boss, this is wrong, and I'm responsible for it. Because let's be honest, it's blood on everyone's hands, right?
At the risk of sounding insensitive, you think it is also a generational thing, like, say, where, like, they look at, like, say, look at kids these days crying over nothing.
No,
like,
not at all.
Hamare zamane mein to blah 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 blah.
But, like, see, I would say that who set the seeds for this, right? I mean, exactly. We were talking about it last time. I mean, what I think is now happened also is the gap is being exposed. Earlier, you had agencies like while there is a consolidation, come on, like, everyone who's worked in a network agency and all, अरे वो तो social करते हैं, वो digital करते हैं, हम ये करते हैं, हम वो, अरे वो creative है. I don't remember, like, if that was the kind of, if you knew that this was the kind of environment that you're joining into, then it becomes very tough, right? Then your expectations are set very differently. But having said that, like, I feel these associations play a huge role. I mean, like, if you can hold Goa Fest and all of that, why not? Why? What? Like, कुछ नहीं है, वो एक दिन दो दिन का event है. Where are all these guys happening? Who can at an industry level? Because essentially the Ad Club and all of them are association levels elected by people for a reason, right? Is your thing only to run the ad awards or do these once in a while workshops? I don't know. Like, I feel that, if you've been elected to a certain office, you need to kind of be responsible for them. And, like, if there's something rampant, like, I refuse, like we were talking last year, I refuse to believe that there's only one or two agencies that are guilty, right? So why are there no counter measures taken against ensuring that this doesn't happen again? I mean, yes, something like happened again, but are we not looking at what measures are being taken today? So like 6 months, a year from now, we don't see a repeat on it, because it's going to be very rampant. Like it's like, last year we were all talking ki work from home theek hai, but that work from home honeymoon is long gone, right?
Yeah.
Burnout is very real at this point. And considering like today's state that we're in, who knows what's going to happen in 6 months, right?
Yeah, dude. And that's what even the measures that like say that people are talking about right now. I feel they just feel like a patch up work that the agencies are doing. It doesn't, like you said, I don't see any longevity in anything that these guys are.
Sorry, I must add, I don't remember which association it is, but there have been like associations which have taken a stand when campaigns have been plagiarized and given for awards. And that time it's की like अरे एजेंसी को डिबार करते हैं. अरे यार अभी क्या कर रहे हो तुम लोग? एजेंसी को डिबार नहीं कर सकते हो? Like what is I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is just a general thought that I had. But yeah, or like if some client is not paid money to the agency, तभी हम लोग will get involved. This is the future, right? I mean, like there are going to be unless there's a stance that we don't want people to come into advertising, right? Then it's a different.
And this is one of the points that we briefly touched upon the last time also we spoke when Mukta was here, and I want to bring it up with AG. Do you feel like say this disregard, I suppose, that we even the quote unquote powers that we like say in the industry have towards like say the smaller employees. Is it simply because how do I say this, like say that in India, like say even if you're a creative or whatever, or even if you're making like that big award-winning campaign or whatever, you're still treated as labor.
Sweatshop.
It's a sweatshop attitude, like more than anything else.
But the sweatshop people still have human rights working for them. Like the labor was applied to them, not to us.
Oh God!
So they are in a better position, dude. It's aspirational to be a sweatshop worker. Right? वहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है कि हेलमेट पहनना है और स्टील के जूते पहनने हैं फैक्ट्री में घुसने से पहले. यहाँ पे अपना कुछ नहीं है. हम बस we are just enjoying ourselves and following our passion, dude. Just
following our passion. Yeah, that's what I think. That idea of following your passion, but that needs to be quelled very soon, like for people, and like say and serious and take what like Gaurav was also taking seriously, like was talking about very seriously, that being treat yourself as a business first, man. I think I don't think there has been a better piece of advice given on this.
But that's the thing, na. जो लोग BMM में जिनको graduate करते हैं and all, they don't want to study business. Like उनको like हाँ दूसरे एक चीज.
नहीं study business का बात नहीं है. Like say,
I'm saying understand the fundamentals.
It's a very interesting approach. Honestly, I wanted to butt in when Gaurav was talking that when you yourself consider yourself like a business, okay, what am I getting out of this brief? Is it benefiting my portfolio? Is it going to benefit the award? I need to ask myself these questions, and then I can set my own timelines. That okay, I can do a script in 1 day, but I can do a better script in 2 days, which will help my portfolio. So let me talk to the client servicing and see if I can get a little extra time. If I have a good dynamic with the client, let me talk directly to the client and say that, hey, I'll give you something even better if you can just hold on for half a day more. I think that is when people need to start questioning themselves also how they want to treat their brief. That will help.
Okay. Okay. I think like you are pretty much at the end of the chat, and so this is quite a lot of fun. And like we're wrapping up sooner than last time, surprisingly.
Who wants to check?
I can't hear you.
Who wants to check the question?
I am doing that right now. I'm like less fewer questions, more anecdotes to be honest. But like say, I suppose like getting reactions from you guys for each of those, or at least some of those, let's say, would be fun. Okay, so there are people shameless enough to put names over here, so whatever. Like say, we might as well read it out. Who cares? A friend of mine, Anupam Chandavarkar says. A friend was working on a post of an ISL campaign. Entire post was executed at Prime Focus Car in 48 hours with all online artists at Prime on board, 5 seniors and around 10 junior artists. I suppose this was happening recently, and and maybe he wants to highlight the fact that this is happening during COVID time. Like while we are talking about larger agencies, this is also happening on the side, like in production. like क्या क्या कर सकते हैं इसके बारे में यार? like like there is it's like if you're digging trying to search find get to the depth of one problem, and then you start seeing that it's like say a lot of other industries ka problems are also converging into that one large issue.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, while here we're primarily talking about advertising, marketing as an overall thing. If you sit back, right, and you start meeting your friends from other industries, like, auditing or finance or things like that, you'll realize or anyone in consulting, you'll realize hum kya kar rahe ho? Matlab, you realize the consultants who, like, I know consultants who literally say I don't know how they are dealing with the pandemic, but they would literally say like mahine mein I see my family for 3 days. हम तो like suitcase लेके hotel room में ही बैठते हैं, plan बनाते हैं, and I'd be like, wow, like do you really like enjoy it that much? But that's the thing, right? There are some people who have it tough, but unka human rights hai, like AG said.
Okay, something interesting that Nigel pointed out, not interesting, which is quite sad. He said we had a colleague pass away from COVID recently, and instead of compensating his family, the agency exhorted us to donate individually to his family. I think perhaps he must have made a reference to this when you're talking about BOROSIL.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I don't know. Like,
no, I suppose like in goodwill, like say people will like say donate some amount of their salary to people, but like why does the agency kind of I mean like say it's very unfortunate to hear about this thing, that like the agency is like say shirking away from their responsibility.
Yeah.
Even basic compensation to milna chahiye.
Also too little information for us to also like judge the situation. Like exhort itself is a leading word, no? We don't know ki forcefully sabki salary se cut gaya, or were you given an option?
Sure.
So, that would be like.
Oh yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Click, eat, and repeat has been commonly quite a bit like the retainer clients and the servicing guys are the worst. पैसे भी लाते हैं लेकिन bend over and let me fuck you. उतना ही चलता रहता है. I'm a video producer and at my last very esteemed agency, client rejected the film even though every shot was as per the client, and agency refused to pay the outsourced team. Those guys threatened to call the police and it was on me.
Police.
What? Agency raised their hands and said you manage the fuck up bench. What? क्या चल रहा है? Like I mean, like these are like they're weird horror stories that we're getting to hear, man. Like what the hell?
I get to Anupam's one. Anupam's one is the next one is crazy.
A producer once undercut a pitch made for around $15,000 for a BBC documentary. He pitched a $5,000 budget. BBC came back to the person who quoted 15,000 after it, and it went up in the air because the 5,000 was struggling to finish stuff on his laptop. Really, come on, man.
Oh, this Nigel's one is damn good. I can't believe like people sign contracts for 30 to 45 posts a month. So what? No. I know of these people. I know them very, very closely. Like there are like these are like say again either makeshift agencies or even like say bigger agencies who are kind of having a problem of like retaining copywriters. So they just get like say people who can just do that basic job of like say writing Facebook posts, like say एक brand के लिए महीने का 60 post लिख देने का and all that kind of shit. Notes के लिए they pay 15 to 20,000 rupees a month and all that.
I mean, I don't know what to say about it honestly. Like say कोई घर पे बैठ के पैसा कमा रहा है तो उसमें I don't know.
वही धंधा चल रहा है तो चल रहा है.
धंधा चल रहा है इसलिए मैं कुछ बोलेगा नहीं उसमें.
दुकान चला के क्या फायदा.
Yeah, but that also tells a lot about the client's का expectation, no, from that particular medium. कि मेरे को 4 किलो सोशल मीडिया चाहिए बस.
हाँ.
धनिया चाहिए धनिया.
करी पत्ता फ्री.
तो बस इतना ही चाहिए. I would ये ऐसा क्लाइंट अच्छा है यार. इसको पता है जिंदगी में क्या चाहिए.
फॉलो भी नहीं होता है वो. फॉलो क्वेश्चंस एंड डिमांड्स की उसका ट्रैक्शन नहीं आया वो सब भी नहीं आता. बस भर गया वो 30 बना दो. One word post, just whatever product डाल दो. क्रिसमस ट्री के अंदर क्रिसमस पोस्ट बन गया.
I like that there is no larger accountability. हाँ, खाली पोस्ट देने का था तेरे को यार. से ले like the most will have like back and forth in QC, but that's pretty much it. Okay, Anirudh Venugopal asks, and this is for everyone. Would you guys support a union model for advertising?
Good luck getting people together.
ये और काम मिलने वाला है.
नहीं सुनो, सब लोग अपना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट निकालो और पढ़ो. I'm sure unionization will be one of the clauses. I remember this. Like, say you cannot unionize and all of that shit, right? Like, it's a part of. So this is not like an agency, but the last company I worked at, the HR, because there were huge problems, and the thing is like how we're talking, but this was a larger scale where everyone was talking, and now emails were being sent to the CEO as a group saying this is the problem, and this is last year. The HR's way of dealing with it, instead of like addressing it, keeping an open forum and all of that, said straight up, group like demands will not be tolerated. You cannot do this. Like, straight up. And I was like, fuck this, man. Like, you're not acknowledging the problem head on. But then I realized like a lot of people don't read the employment contracts. Just go back, read the contract that you signed. 100% unionization will be part of the thing.
But that harkens back to my older point, which you of course you made a joke about. That if we are getting treated as labor, then let's say to union banana. You get what I mean?
But वो step कहाँ से आएगा, right? Like that's the part I went in terms of. I mean, like if you think of associations that are there, they are to look out for the interests of people that are a larger part of the association, right? Or the industry that looked at. I mean, take any other industry that we have. When they have associations, they look out. Where are the associations here? Konsa, matlab, our network agencies looking at what's happening individually at each agency level? Question.
I can imagine there being a union in your agency just to ensure that the payment is on time. The 10th of May में नहीं आ रहा है वो पैसा. That is something that would work. मतलब काम रोक दो. मतलब how the worker strike होता है, factory रोक देते हैं. So भाई काम रोक दो. अब क्या करोगे ना? Client is important. Client is God. No fucker. So go serve this God by your own self.
Anyone else wants to add to that? Anyone else wants to add to that? Gaurav, perhaps, like, I mean, your view on unionization. You don't.
ऑलरेडी कम काम है और यूनियनाइजेशन और कोऑर्डिनेशन और
मतलब और गला जो कटेगा वो यूनियन लीडर का कटेगा.
वो डेस्क भेज दो, स्लैक पे सबको बता दो, like all of that PPT बना के भेज दो अलग से after work also.
I really hope Anirudh Venugopal and the few people who have shown support to his idea are listening to you guys right now.
But the fact that we have to think of a union, I mean, imagine this. Isn't this the HR's job to like listen to us and?
Oh, let's not go there, dude. That's a different.
No.
रंगोली कौन बनाएगा यार?
नहीं, please.
Has to.
Sort of sad, no, that we have to think कि अपने ही भाईचारे में चलो बना के मोर्चा निकालते हैं.
But that's the thing, right? HR are like management. वो जो ग्लास कैबिन में बैठेंगे और सब लोग फ्लोर पे हो.
Like HR stands for human resource, right? The human part is small caps, your resource is in large caps.
There are only 2 times that I met my HR, like I mean in my experience. Join करने के time और join करने के बाद. वही 2 टाइम. बीच में कहाँ?
Oh man. But yeah, dude, like I think this. I don't think there are any more questions other than like some people posting some of their horror stories, and they say, and there are too many of them. And I'm sure, like say, we are also on a personal level also we are reading into a lot of them on a daily right now. So I suppose like say we conclude this over here for now. But I can't promise that if there will be a part 3 to this. Because I don't know what is left to address, but I suppose I would like to keep continuing having these kind of conversations with people like you and with perhaps more varied topics. Because I don't know, like it just feels like these kind of conversations need to be had. Like I mean, on whatever level.
I'll tell you what I was saying to a friend of mine who works in an agency last night. कि support group होना चाहिए. मतलब
support group. But that support group thing is pretty much like getting a therapist for you.
No, but I'm saying no.
Or aisa.
Group orgy would also be fine. No, group orgy. Like I'd support that more than support group. Just
going. So AG was not part of it. So AG last time and Tata also was not part of the last one. So I was saying कि at Lower Parel you had ambience, right?
Oh yeah.
Ambience में सब लोग बैठ
That was your support group.
अरे वो सबका therapy था. मतलब एक quarter लगाओ and if you were a fly on the wall, you hear like सब, whether it was brand, agency, सबका गाली मिलता था. Now what has happened is everyone sitting in isolation and thinking कि हाँ मेरा ही लग गया, उसका ही लग गया, that kind of thing.
So what you're suggesting is basically creatives के लिए सब bars खोल दो अभी.
Discord server बनाओ.
Oh, we're getting to that. We are starting a Discord server right now. And so hopefully there will be like space allocated for us to like just have this kind of banter about all things in general.
Is it a TT? Is it a TT one when सब लोग अपना beats drop करेंगे or?
Oh, there is space for all of that. Okay, so there is comedy का रहेगा, there will be hip hop and all that shit. So I think people can go over there and let's say select like say their interests and like as per speak with people. So I think that'll be pretty cool. But anyway, having said that, this was a fun chat, man. And I'm glad, like say, it could come to some sort of a, I shouldn't say conclusion as much as like say an understanding about like say where you could potentially go from here, I suppose. And if there are any newbies watching this, please like say there are a lot of jewels dropped here by especially by Gaurav over like say. Like that one bit like say about treating yourself as a business is the most important thing that I've heard in this not to say like say people didn't contribute but yeah, like jokes aside, this was fun. And like all the topics that we've spoken about, especially like say articles vagara, like say be it the BOROSIL one, be it talking about like so Tathagata blog which he mentioned, as well as like say the article that Peter and I spoke about, where there was an appeal to the AAAI to
advertising association.
Advertising association, so that like they can start taking a more humanitarian. There are humanitarian appeal to these agencies. So all these articles will be listed in the links, like say after this goes offline. So do check it out and shoot us any questions if you have, like on Instagram or wherever, like where we are. So links are over there, like say in the description. So thanks a lot, thanks AG, thanks Tatha, thanks Nathan. And you guys so valuable. So thanks for joining. We'll do this again. We'll figure out what topic can come next.
Done.
We'll go.
So,
have fun. Yeah, bye.
Cheers.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.